Now I'll move to MDG 2, which is about universal primary education. Here, in more than 60 countries, at least 90% of the children are in school. And yet, close to 100 million children are still out of school. And that is a very large number. 100 million is not a small number. And they have never been to school. The 100 million kids never entering school is like double the size of USA, have never been to school. And many of us are, most of you here and all of us have had several years of education. Most of you have had 10, 12 years of education. But imagine a child who has never had education. And when you look at it, again, look at the least developed countries, only 66% of children are attending school. In Africa, 69%. You look at Western Central Africa, 61%, Eastern Central Africa. So even within Africa, the Eastern Central Africa, 71% of children are in school. Whereas in Western Central Africa, 61% are in school. Again, somebody talked about peace and war. If you know the geography, if you are following world affairs, most of those countries in Western Central Africa, whether it is Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, or Ivory Coast, many of those countries have been in civil war or constant war situation. And obviously in such a situation, children are the ones who definitely suffer and they never manage to get to school. Okay? The previous one was about primary school. When it comes to secondary school, it's even worse. The proportion of children entering school and staying in school is even lesser. Imagine only 1/3 of children entering secondary school, which means doing more than 4 to 5 years of education. If that is the world that you will live in 10 years from now or 15 years from now, imagine when these kids with very little education become leaders of their societies, what kind of issues you will be facing. How can you negotiate about a better world, a flatter world, when the other side is having leadership which doesn't have the same kind of understanding of the world? So it's not just about them, it is about us. If there are people who are not educated, it means those who are educated are going to face problems on how to solve the world issues. So that's why it is important for everyone, whether you are on this side of the better side of the world or on the poorer side of the world, it is important that the world as a whole grows and becomes equally developed. So that is something which we have to worry about. As I said, 101 million children are out of school, and where are most of them? They are 25%, 26% are in Western Central Africa. South Asia is 35%. That's again the size of those countries and the demography is such that that's where you find maximum number. And then the Eastern Southern Africa is 20. So Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia together account for nearly 3/4 of the children who are out of school. Same story. Poorest 64%, richest 90%. You look at an urban-rural. Urban is 86, whereas rural is 72. But even within urban, you look at urban slums versus the rest of the urban slums will be worse compared to the rest of the urban. I don't know whether you're aware of what is an urban slum. Anybody here would like to share with the rest what an urban slum means? Anyone? Do you know what an urban slum means? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
A low socioeconomic section of the city.
These are usually called shanty towns, right? What happens is when a town is growing, there's a lot of construction happening. So people come and do the construction work, do all the work for you, but they have to live in temporary structures, and after some time they can't go back to their villages. They end up living there. They don't have good latrines, they don't have water, they are the poor people who are contributing to your society, but for them nobody contributes to anything, and they are having kids and families living in abject poverty. And when you look at within cities, and large cities everywhere do have these slums, homeless people or people living in very poor circumstances. And there you will find most of these indices are even worse. Let me go on to gender disparity. There are many measures of gender disparity. The ones I'm talking about is gender disparity in education, primary education and secondary education. Because it's easy for political leaders to correct imbalances related to gender disparities in education. It's more difficult to correct gender disparities on sharing power. I don't know whether you're aware that most parliaments find it very difficult even to agree that, let's say, 1/3 or 1/2 of their members should be from the other sex. Although, in theory, in the world, the number of women and the number of men are equal. But when it comes to sharing power in a parliament or in a legislature or in your senate or in your assembly, we don't agree to share that power. So the ultimate index of eliminating gender parity would be whether we are willing to share power within the family, within the borough, within the assembly, within the parliament. But to start there, maybe there should be somewhere else. You try and produce successive cohorts of young people who grow thinking that it is all right to have equal numbers in a classroom. So if in a classroom there are equal number of boys and girls, then they will find it very difficult when they grow up. Suddenly those empty seats which are meant for women. So hopefully, if we build layers and layers of educational cohorts who are having equal number of boys and girls, then maybe they will be willing to share power eventually. So that is the thought, and that's why we are focusing a lot more on trying to improve gender disparity. We are not that bad in most societies, including in South Asia and Africa. The numbers are getting better. There are, I would say, at least 90 girls to 100 boys. But it's still not good. We need to get better. Okay, this is about secondary education. When it comes to secondary education, the numbers are not that good. But if you have primary education done well for 5 years, hopefully it will produce in the next 5 years secondary education, which is gender disparities are reduced. So again, when you look at where are the worst off? The worst off are, it's like here, this is only about some countries in South Asia. You look at it, it is again the poorest. When it comes to the poor world, that's where you find that children are not in school. It's not the richest, the girls of the richest who are not in school. It is the poorest girls who are not in school. So that is what is, so as you get better, you start believing in sending children to school. Let's look at goal 4. This is about child health, some of you talked about. Again, the same story. It's the same part of the world which is, there is insufficient progress or no progress. But you shouldn't just accept this. You should, if you look at, for example, here is Malawi. If you look at Malawi and start looking at where are the worst off parts of Malawi, you will find that these are the districts bordering the Mozambique and Tanzania. And if you, for example, if you look at Brazil here, which are the, is it the uniform? It's the average appearing as if things are going on very well. But if you look at the northeast, which is the place where you have a lot more of indigenous people, again, that's where mortality rates will be very high. So in every country, you need to start unpacking these numbers and seeing them where the worst problems are.